Hello and welcome to the Secret Life of Plants. Today I'm going to take you on a journey through my garden and show you how I have laid the foundation for a healthy garden. So now I'm no expert, I'm always learning, and I'm here to learn with you how to do this and just share with you the things that I learned along the way. So we're going to go from the soil beneath our feet to the plants that grow much taller than us, and we're going to dive into those foundations that make it all possible. To go from something like this, bare felt, to something like this. Let's get our hands dirty. So we're going to start here with the soil beneath our feet, or the ground beneath our feet, because you know that's where everything grows from. And this part of the video is all about creating healthy soil. And so one of the best ways I know how to create a healthy soil is that's full of nutrients, is through compost. And so you can think of compost as the garden's multivitamin, or the soil's multivitamin. It's a slow release, and in some cases a quick release of nutrients straight into the plants, or straight into the soil where the plants can access them. And so what compost actually helps the soil to do is build structure. And by building soil structure, you actually add complexity to the soil. And that helps water to infiltrate the soil into the soil as well. And you can either make your own or you can buy it. I personally make my own. I use things like wood shavings and grass and hay and those kinds of things, combined with grass clippings and leaves and all kinds of organic matter that I have available. And I just mix those together into a compost pile. We'll dive into a specific episode on how to create a really good compost. But here's just touching on some main points of it. And so we're going to dive into the depths of how to create the foundations of a healthy garden, and compost is one of those really important ones. So some of the other benefits of compost. So this garden has all been started with compost piles, and one of the other really nice benefits is that it actually helps sequesters carbon into the soil. It, as you can see, promotes healthy plant growth and helps those plants to fight pests and disease, which is really, really important. And if you catch this on a really fun, sunny day, we've pretty overcast today, you'll see a lot of beneficial organisms, insects, bees, and all kinds of other insects that help pollinate the plants around here. What compost also does is it helps to conserve water because you're going to be watering less. And the reason is that it holds water in the body of the soil really nicely. And so you're going to be doing a lot less watering, and so conserving water and stopping evaporation. Here we're going to be talking about mulch and covering everything that mulch does. So you can think of mulch as the blanket for the soil. What it does is to help to keep the moisture inside the soil itself. It also helps protect against the extremes of temperature, hot and cold. It'll stop the soil itself getting too cold and frostbitten, as well as evaporating all the water. And so mulch can come in a lot of different ways. You can have just grass like this. You can have different organic matter like this. You could just have basic leaves or even grass clippings. It's really about what you have available to you. And then what it also does is it helps support species that are within the soil. So you're going to find insects and everything that are going to also decompose the mulch even further, and it creates a habitat for all those little insects, which helps support the soil and the plants as a whole. What you can also do is create a green mulch, or a living mulch, and that is just any kind of plant that's going to have living roots in the soil. And we'll show you a couple of those different options. So just on the topic of living or green mulch, what I've used a lot is pumpkins. So pumpkins create food, they protect the soil from the elements and limit evaporation, and they also create a dead mulch at the end of the day. When the pumpkins are done, I just let them die, or I just chop them up and just leave them in the garden bed, and that's a sort of a multi-seasonal mulch as well. So what's also nice about mulch is it helps with water retention, stops evaporation, or limits evaporation, which leads to less watering of the garden. So what it also does is to add long-term nutrients to the soil. So this mulch is going to break down. So this is slowly just going to become soil over time, and it's going to break down and become part of the soil cycle. And I will continue to add mulch to the soil as this stuff breaks down. I'll just add some more and just continuously add to the soil, just like would happen in nature. What it also does over time is adds to, or improves the soil structure. So it's going to increase the water permeability. So when you have heavy rainfall and it's falling on mulch, it's not going to wash away the soil and the compost or whatever. Whereas if you have bare soil, that's going to wash away pretty easily. And so mulch is really, really important with that. And a living mulch is also very important because those roots bind the soil together and help with that. Then what we've got is aesthetics. So if you've just got this kind of thing on all of your garden beds, it's going to add a pretty cool aesthetic and create a little bit of uniformity to your garden if that's what you prefer. I don't really care. So I've got whatever I have available because I know it's just going to add improvements to the soil over time. And so there's another pretty cool mulch tip that you may not have been thinking about, and we'll jump to that now. So something about mulch that you probably weren't expecting is a stone mulch. So we've put this all along our driveway, and what that does is it's good for the cars and it stops the driveway from washing away in heavy rains. But what it also does, surprisingly, is maintain a lot of moisture underneath all of this. So if you're wanting to capture water on your property, which I would highly suggest, you want to capture as much water as possible, because this water is going to stay in the soil underneath all of this. And these plants can extend their roots underneath this and access all that water. What it's also going to do is slowly seep down and into my groundwater. And that's what I really want. So you don't want any bare soil in a permaculture approach or a syntropic approach, because bare soil evaporates and also washes away depending on the weather. And this is going to stop that. So that's why we've done our whole driveway in this, because it looks nice and because it stops water evaporation. The diversity in your garden is key. Having a plant diversity is really, really important to having a resilient garden. We all are aware of monocrops and the disadvantages of those, I'm sure, because, for example, if a pest comes through that is particularly harmful to a monocrop, it can wipe out that entire monocrop. Whereas if you've got diversity and different strains and different species of trees and plants and everything, they're all going to work together to strengthen that environment. So plants support each other. For example, this marigold over here supports plants within the cabbage family, all of those kinds of plants, from aphids and other plants that are susceptible to aphids. And there are so many other examples like that where you've got plants supporting each other and working together to create a balanced ecosystem. So some of these plants will have a deep taproot, so like some comfrey that we've planted, that those roots reach down deep and bring up nutrients. You can then chop off those leaves and they create a mulch on the ground. And so they are constantly creating a soil for you. You've got other ones like the banana also. As this banana grows, produces food for us, we chop down the entire plant, but the next succession will come through, but that previous generation will have created soil as well. And just working together, we've also got the ground covers and creating that diverse garden bed that is going to create resilience. Then you've got nitrogen fixers, things that will bring nitrogen into the soil because they create the nitrogen themselves. And so these are all going to also be bringing beneficial insects into that environment, all working together to create this diverse habitat for life to thrive. Another reason why it's important to have diversity is that you have some trees that lose their leaves and some trees that maintain their leaves throughout the season, but just will drop leaves sort of throughout the year. So like this curry, it will hold its leaves throughout the year, so it always creates a canopy over here, making a safe environment for some of the other plants that are here. Then you've got things like the marigold, not the marigold, the frangipani. This will eventually grow up to a nice big tree and sort of work through this canopy as well, creating a lot of flowers for the bees in summer. And then once those leaves all fall and the flowers all drop, the aloes will start to send up their shoots. This is one from last season. The bees, the hummingbirds, the sunbirds, they all really love these flowers, and that's also another way to pollinate and provide food for the insects and wildlife around us. So it's really important to have that diversity, and you can find that kind of diversity just looking at the nature around you and seeing what thrives in winter, what thrives in summer, and then also just chatting to the experts at your local nursery. Plants are not the only life that's important in the garden. The insects, big and small, are your allies when it comes to gardening. Whether it's the pollinators that are pollinating this basil bush and all these other plants here, or the butterflies, the moths, the wasps, and the flies even, that help the plants reproduce. They're really, really important in keeping your garden alive. Also coming to the predatory insects like the ladybugs, those cute little things, they actually eat the aphids and other harmful insects that would otherwise be damaging your, here's a wasp right here, it's pollinating the flowers. So the ladybugs, they go through a process of eating the harmful insects that would otherwise be harmful to our plants and stuff. In this little spot over here, we've got mason bees, some other little miniature bees. We've got the normal honeybee, we've got wasps and flies, and the occasional butterfly will come through over here. So this is a very diverse flower area. We've got low flowers, we've got this big bush, we've got this one that flowers occasionally, and then we've also got some aloes that flower in winter. So we've got food available for the pollinators throughout the year, which is really, really important. So check out your nursery to see seasonal flowering plants. How you can attract more insects into your garden, whether they are the ones that are in the soil or the ones flying around us, is that you could put more mulch and compost in your garden beds, because that attracts more of the decomposers, the earthworms, the millipedes, the centipedes, all of those that help to break down the waste. And there are so many more. I'm missing out a whole bunch of them, but that creates an environment for them to live in. What you could also do is plant a lot of flowers that have nectar, flowers like marigolds, lavender, and so many more. Go to your nursery, your local nursery, and check out the indigenous section and see where the bees are hanging out, all the butterflies, where they are going to naturally, and select those flowers and plant those in your gardens. And what I would also suggest is look for flowers that flower throughout the year. Maybe not one flower that flowers the entire year, but different diversity of flowers that flower at different times of the year, because what those are going to do is create a constant food source for the bees and other insects that are available. Another benefit of having all of these insects in your garden is reducing the need for chemical pest control, because you won't need to spray to get rid of aphids if you've got a lot of ladybugs. You won't need to add chemical fertilizers if you've got earthworms doing the jobs for you. And you won't need to hand pollinate the flowers. I know nobody really does that if we didn't have bees. But the importance of keeping an environment that are good for the bees is really good for food security as well. If we dig down a little bit over here, we're going to see something really, really fascinating. This is where all the magic happens. It is the soil microbiome. It's everything that's going on beneath our feet that we don't even think about. So if you can think of, like, our bodies have a microbiome in our gut, our mouths have a microbiome, our skin has a microbiome, our whole body is covered in different microbiomes which make us healthy. If any of our microbiomes are out of whack, we end up being a little bit sick. And so the soil is much the same. When everything is working in harmony together, and that system is resilient, that's when you're going to have healthy plants, healthy soil, and everything is just going to thrive and work together. And so you can think of this as the factory that makes the soil, is constantly creating more nutrition for the plants by breaking things down. It's the insects, it's the fungal activity, it's the earthworms and everything that's working together to decompose all of this stuff, all of these pine needles, for example, that have the little beginnings of the mycelium network starting over there, which is absolutely fantastic. Starting the mycelial network, connecting everything over here to everything else around us. And that is really, really beautiful. And in the meantime, it's breaking those things down, creating sugars and everything for the plants, which is so exciting to see and understand. And so that is really, really important, to make a safe space for the plants and for that microbiome to flourish by using things like compost and mulch. You can see I'm harping on the same things over and over again because they're so important. They're foundational principles to having a healthy garden. So what's happening over here is this microbiome, like I said, is just constantly making fertilizer, short-term, long-term, making nutrients available to the plants around us here. And when we add artificial fertilizers, what that actually does is it damages that tiny little ecosystem that's happening over there all around us, and it actually breaks that cycle. So what you want to do is stick to the natural things. Make your own natural fertilizers. There's so many different ways, which we'll touch on in future episodes, how to make amazing fertilizers with everything that's free around you. Also, just using compost and mulch, just creating an environment for everything to do that fertilization for itself. One of my favorite parts about creating a resilient garden is the mushrooms. So like these guys right here. But it's not just what you see over here, it's everything that's happening below the ground. The fungal network that connects everything together, the web that connects the plants over here to the plants over there, and allows that communication exchange. It's a symbiotic relationship where the plants give the mycelium sugars, and the mycelium in exchange allow the plants to absorb water and minerals more easily. It facilitates a communication network, kind of like fiber, giving the ability to have the plants over here give the plants over here minerals and water and those kinds of things that they might need. It's an incredible system that has been created. And if we just pop this little guy up over here, if we can, or not over there, we'll see this mycelial network happening, breaking down the woody material over here and just slowly making this soil. And so that is what is connecting everything together. So when I plop this little guy back down on the soil, he'll release his spores back into the ground and start a whole new flush of these little guys. And that's really, really exciting. Okay. Let's bury him over there. So if we see over here, you've got all the little white strands that are connecting everything. Those are sort of spreading throughout this whole woody base that I've created here in this garden area. And that is what's breaking everything down. What you can do to encourage this network and encourage the mycelial network growing, mushrooms and all that to grow, is you can have wood. So what we've done in this garden bed is put logs all around these tree bases. You can also cover the ground with wood chips, wood shavings, that kind of thing. You can also use things like grass and straw and that sort of thing. Leaves, any woody material, sticks and all that sort of stuff that you would otherwise chuck away. Put them down, layer them in your garden beds. That's going to start to break down and you're going to see the mushrooms sort of introduce themselves. I haven't had to introduce any of these mushrooms here. They've just kind of popped up on their own. And so we're going to have a deep, deep dive into how this all works and helps our gardens in a future episode. As with each of the rest of these topics, with mulch and compost and plant diversity and insects and mushrooms, of course, we're going to have a deep dive into each one of these individually so we can learn a lot more about these things than just touching on them really, really briefly. So those are some of the foundational points of creating a healthy garden. And I'm learning alongside with you. I'm no expert. I'm just showing you the things that I've learned to make a strong, healthy garden that can thrive in any weather conditions. And that's what you really want. You want to be able to have full sun and have a thriving garden. You want to have cold climates and have plants that are resilient because you've chosen them correctly. And so come along with me on this journey as we start to build soil, create resilient gardens, and create food forests where we can basically live off of our own land, whether that's a balcony or a big plot like this. And so I look forward to seeing you in future episodes, and I would really love it and appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, all that jazz, and check me out on the next episode of The Secret Life of Plants.